Darian Fenton.
Mr Chair, I'm going to take a short call on this. I just want to put on record my support for the bill and the fact that it's being debated in its committee stages the day before the House is due to rise, and also my hope that this bill will have a third reading tomorrow. As the previous member said, there has been a lot of calls from people in the community, people involved in this industry, people involved in this disgraceful episode in New Zealand's history, to have this bill pass through Parliament. Now, what I wanted to do in my call is just try and take us back to what this is really about. And it's about the situation, the history that we have in recent years of crew who came to work in New Zealand's waters on foreign crewed vessels. And I came in touch with some of the crew from the Shin and who came mainly from the Tegel region in central Java, which is one of the most impoverished areas of Indonesia. A high unemployment, low pay and so on. So you can imagine when they were recruited come and work in New Zealand, they thought this was going to be make a real difference for them and for their lives and their families' lives. But they had to provide condition precedent guarantees and securities to the Manning Agency, including a cash bond of up to $300, which is a lot of money in that region. They were also required to hand over birth certificates, family identity documents and education certificates just to get the job. And on signing their contract with the Manning agent, they signed an agreement that said that they would be completely submissive and obedient, established by the third party, in other words, the Manning agent and the in charge of the foreign crewed vessel. Now, the Shin, as I mentioned, I came in touch with them in 2011, but the first time there was a situation with the Shin crew was in 2009, when there was a crew that walked off the job when the vessel arrived in New Zealand. 11 Indonesian crew fled the vessel, handing themselves into the police. And they spent the night as vagrants in the custody of Auckland Police. And the next day, the Maritime Union officials transferred the crew to the Auckland International Seafarers Centre. The men resolutely refused to return to their vessel, alleging ill treatment by its Korean officers. Things like weekly saltwater showers, no hot water and no pay for 4 months. So that was in 2009. 2 years later, in 2011, other Shin crew members refused to work, arrived in Auckland, walked off the ship, refused to work despite being threatened that they'd be sent home and not get paid. They cited abusive working and living conditions, the non-payment of wages, excessive working shifts, as well as sexual abuse. Earlier that year, the boatswain drowned while clearing a blockage in the eel tank aboard the vessel, and half the crew were traumatised by this death, returned home breaking their contracts. The remaining 7 crew were required to do the work of 14. They were forced to work long shifts, 16-hour days, and shifts up to 30 hours in length were common. One crew member reported that during the last 21 months, I never had a day off, only time off at night after work finished. We often worked from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. the next day, or from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. Some of us cannot stay awake for so long, so we work until we fall asleep. So food was inadequate in quality and quantity. Usually halfway through a voyage, the food was rationed. Meals included stale bread and rotting fish bait, from which crew were forced to select the best pieces of bait to eat. They were not allowed to cook in the pantry. The pantry was locked, and they were often abused for taking too long to eat a meal and sometimes had to forego a meal. There was a lack of proper protective clothing, especially boots and gloves for use in the minus 18-degree freezer. Crew commonly received frostbite and freezer burns to feet, legs and hands, resulting in walking impediments. They asked the captain for better boots and gloves, but their requests were ignored. Mistakes often led to one officer hitting crew around the head and harsh punishments. And on it went. And so the stories that came through the inquiry that the government set up on the situation about the crew working on foreign crewed vessels. The stories came through, and I think one of the things that still disturbs me, Mr Chair, is that many of those crew, Mr Chair, many of those crew were sent home, and actually I thought quite harshly treated by the government around immigration and so on, because many were not allowed to stay and pursue their wage claims. There are millions, hundreds of millions of dollars still owed to many of those crew. They were forced to go home. We didn't treat them that well, and they've gone back to a situation where they are impoverished once more. Their so-called first world experiences in working in New Zealand in a first world job have been appalling. They came to New Zealand with high hopes and left abused, destitute and gutted. Some of them were talked about the rapes, the physical assault, the abuse, appalling treatment. This happened in our waters, and that's why this bill must have pass through its committee stages tonight and have its third reading tomorrow, because this happened in our country, in our waters. When people describe it as slavery, Mr Chair, they are accurate in it. I give credit to the government for the inquiry. I give credit to the government for the fact that we have legislation. I am disturbed that it's taken this long, Minister, to get us to this stage, and I really hope that you will do everything you can to persuade the Māori Party to pass this through third reading tomorrow, so we can get this disgraceful and appalling incident off our books. And also, once having done that, we can go back and help those crew that still haven't been paid, have still not been paid, who are living in awful situations back in their country, who cannot get jobs. This is a disgraceful incident, and it's really incumbent on this Parliament to see it through, get it passed, get it fixed before the Parliament rises. Thank you.
I call Richard Prosser.
I'm pleased to rise on behalf of New Zealand First to make